Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here with your all stuff, no fluff gaming and tech news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about an upcoming gaming handheld that's gaining quite a bit of traction online, and it's from Mangmi, and this is the Pocket Max. Now, we've talked about the Pocket Max in previous videos. However, here, Mangmi has given us a little bit more information on this very interesting handheld. So taking a quick peek on Twitter, and here's what they're saying. The first modular magnetic button Android handheld, Pocket Max introduces a new way to play. Modular magnetic buttons, swap, customize, adapt. And taking a look here, it seems as if the D-pad and buttons can pull out. So I've seen a number of people very excited about the overall configurability of this. I mean, switching from maybe a traditional D-pad to a circle D-pad. And taking a look at the buttons from a Nintendo layout to an Xbox layout, maybe to a PlayStation layout. However, I see a couple of huge benefits here that aren't really being talked about. First and foremost, the fact that the D-pad is micro-switched. This will be good for overall accuracy. And secondly here, for people like me who maybe use the D-pad a little bit more than others and maybe use those buttons a little bit more than others for playing a whole bunch of fighting games, this might be really good to be able to replace them if they ever wear down or become less responsive. Unfortunately, I don't know the price of the Pocket Max just yet, and I think that price is going to make or break this handheld overall. Hopefully it's not too expensive. Mangmi has been known to produce lesser expensive devices, and I'm hoping this follows the same trend. It also seems like Mangmi is rising up in terms of overall popularity in the retro handheld space. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Moving on, and we're talking about a very interesting ROM hack that was just posted to romhack.ing, and this one is titled Super Mario World The Definitive Edition. So on the website, they say here this was made originally as a remaster of the Super Mario World Plus hack, which was released in May of 2024. Definitive Edition started progress in early 2025 around February, and the first public build is now released for Christmas 2025. They say the hack features new bug fixes from the original, new separated player sprites for Mario and Luigi, new and improved overworld player sprites, separate level locations that players start off in when continuing a save file, new level themes, sprites, and soundtracks from the Super Mario Maker series and VLDC ROM hacks, and even more stuff. If you are curious about this one, there is a video up on YouTube showcasing the ROM hack in action, and it's by none other than T-Bone. If you are interested and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are within the GitHub link in the bottom of the description below. I don't hide my sources. And speaking about ROM hacks and romhack.ing, next up we're talking about another interesting ROM hack that was just posted to romhack.ing. It's titled SMW, where SMW stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Super Mario World, depending on how you wanted to interpret that. So SMW Friends and Rivalry. So they say here it features 90 plus new levels and 118 exits defined across 9 worlds. Also, a lot of new stuff have been added to make this hack feel like a new and grand adventure, like new moves for Mario, custom sprites, custom music, graphics, lots of quality of life improvements, and even more. And just like the other ROM hack, this one also has a video on YouTube showcasing it in action, so feel free to check that out. And continuing to talk about mods and stuff, next up we're talking about Super Mario 64 CoOp Deluxe. And it looks as if Sonic is making an appearance in the game. There's an interesting tweet showcasing some gameplay, and at the very end of it, they say beginning in 2026. Unfortunately, I don't know what specific date that is. Now, for those who may not be familiar with Super Mario 64 CoOp Deluxe, they say right here on their website, it's an online multiplayer project for the Super Mario 64 PC port. It supports widescreen, uncapped FPS, and has many toggleable options for customization to fit your desired experience. It has multiplayer up to 16 players and an ever-growing powerful LUA modding API that allows modders and players to enjoy Super Mario 64 in more accessible and unique new ways. Next up, we're shifting from Nintendo to Xbox and talking about arguably not great news at all for Xbox. And by arguably, I mean it's going to be really hard to argue against this one. Anyways, there's an interesting article up on Tech for Gamers, and to check it out, you know where the links are. It's titled Technical Analyst Reports Xbox Game Videos Drew Very Little Views in 2025. Alex Battaglia stated that it's hard to justify covering Xbox on the channel anymore. So there's an interesting post up on Blue Sky from Alex here that this article is referencing, and Alex says, looking over the year, our coverage of Xbox titles and videos almost feels like it's getting harder and harder to justify from a work return perspective. Very little views there, even for titles that you think could draw them in. I wonder what the future is there. Now, for those who may not be the most familiar with Alex, at least not as an individual, you may be well aware of a channel that he's a part of called Digital Foundry. And this one has 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. They've got their own website. They've got a huge following, and I would say they're pretty huge in the gaming space. So this statement from Alex, I would say, is pretty huge. And furthermore, to arguably make things even worse, scrolling down just a little bit to the very first reply, and Jez Corden, who is a well-known industry insider, says same, and we literally only cover Xbox from a gaming perspective, doing far more traffic on Steam Deck. It's wild. I'd say that's pretty wild. There is a response to that. I think there's still a lot of content to be covered and large audiences for it. January will start with an Xbox event, and it could be a year that includes Halo, Gears, Forza, Fable, and the 25th anniversary of Xbox, but obviously Microsoft needs to improve its marketing. And Jez replies, it's not bringing in enough hits to keep the lights on, sadly. That is huge. So taking a look back at the article, and they say here, Xbox is already in a financial mess with its 2025 revenue falling by $113 million, as its hardware declined by a whopping 29%. Now, I don't know about you here, but I would argue that things aren't necessarily dire for Xbox yet, but things are definitely not looking good, and the future of Xbox may be in question. I would argue that in 2026, Xbox is really going to have to put their foot on the gas in terms of sales and success. And if they don't, I don't necessarily see a bright future for Xbox moving forward. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, on a side note here, not really a side note, just to add more fuel to the fire to make things even more interesting from my point of view here, because I cover gaming and tech news on a daily basis. When I talk about new Xbox stuff, it doesn't get the same engagement as PlayStation and Nintendo stuff. I take a look at the engagement, the segments, and how stuff does. And I can tell you, from my point of view, new Xbox stuff isn't nearly as popular as stuff like PlayStation and Nintendo. However, the big however, from an emulation standpoint, Xemu and Xenia Canary do pretty, well, just Xenia in general, do pretty darn good. Xemu is Xbox emulation, and Xenia is Xbox 360 emulation. And I find this stuff does absolutely fine. So it seems as if Xbox had it back then with Xbox 360 and Xbox, and has somehow lost it along the line. But moving on from that, and speaking about emulators, next up here we're talking about Pocket 8, which is a brand new native Pico 8 emulator for iOS. And there's an interesting post about it up on Reddit Emulation. As for the key features, they say native performance, zero audio latency, auto update support, file support, supports original .p8 and .p8.png cartridges, save and load states, instantly save and load entire Pico 8 machine states to your phone, return anytime. Now, taking a look on GitHub, and this emulator seems pretty darn active in terms of overall updates and attention from the developer. I mean, Pocket 8 version 1.0 was just released 2 days ago, and they're already up to version 1.4.1. The latest version here brings autosave on pause and exit, and even more stuff. I mean, this seems to be a pretty active emulator, and I'm very curious to see its overall traction over on iOS. Next up here, we're switching from iOS to Android and talking about a game that may be up my alley. We'll have to wait and see, though I have not tried this one out yet. If you have, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. But it's called Legendary Pilots, and it's a flight simulator with retro graphics. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's a huge departure from stuff like Ace Combat and Microsoft Flight Simulator. This game is completely different from something like Ace Combat. Anyways here, I think this looks really cool. However, and the big however here, taking a look at this on the Google Play Store, and it is free to install, which immediately raises some red flags. Taking a look at about this game, and there are in-game purchases. I wish it was just an upfront purchase and go from there. But anyways, if you have played this one, would you recommend it? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below, and I think I will give this one a try at some point in time. And speaking about trying stuff out at some point in time, next up here we're talking about 007 First Light. And if you were looking forward to this game, you're going to have to wait a couple of months here because the game has been delayed. The team has made this announcement up on Blue Sky, and they say here, today we are sharing an update regarding 007 First Light, as we have decided to move the game's release by 2 months to the 27th of May 2026. The rationale is to make things even better. To be honest with you, I have no issue at all with them delaying the game for a couple of months if it means the overall experience, the initial experience, is going to be a lot better. Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments below, but I'd much prefer a delayed game as opposed to a rushed game that's a broken mess. Next up here, we're switching from games that haven't released to games that have released, and a game that's doing extremely well. We're talking about Mario Kart World for the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's being reported that it has reached 2.5 million units sold in Japan. That is just Japan. Reaching the milestone in just 29 weeks, it's the fastest selling Mario Kart game of all time. Now, unfortunately, there are a couple of things worth noting. Number one, I don't have worldwide numbers just yet, and I think we have to wait until February for Nintendo to release those. And number two, I don't know if this is part of the bundle because of the bundle or because of the game selling on its own. I'd be very curious to know how much of this is sales with the bundle and how much of this people have just bought copies out in the wild. However, if the rest of the world is trending in a similar direction here, this would be huge for Mario Kart World. I mean, taking a look at the charts, and they absolutely dominate it. In second place, it's nowhere near. Pokemon Legends ZA is nowhere near Mario Kart. It's over 1 million units less. I mean, that to me is absolutely huge, but I am curious to see the rest of the world's data. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about the Nintendo Switch 2, next up here we're talking about Stardew Valley. If you've got a Switch 2 and you were thinking about picking up Stardew Valley, there is a brand new Switch 2 edition for Stardew Valley. And if you've got a Switch 2 and you've got Stardew Valley, the upgrade pack from Stardew Valley to the Switch 2 version is 100% free. Unfortunately here, and this is worth pointing out, there's no savings for picking up Stardew Valley for the original Switch and then just upgrading it to the Switch 2 version for free. They're priced the exact same, $15. As for what's new, a couple of the big things include now mouse support for the Switch 2 version of the game, and taking a look at the difference between the Switch and Switch 2 versions. They both contain online multiplayer. On the Switch version, it's 1 to 3, and on the Switch 2 version, it's 1 to 7, so there is a bit of an upgrade there. And speaking about free stuff, next up we're talking about Hellversus, which is a fan game based on Helltakers. Hellversus appears to be up on itch.io, and taking a look, I think this is the first public release of the game, and it is 100% free. It's 216 megabytes. And speaking about free stuff, next up we're talking about free information and the Hidden Palace. So taking a look, they have just tweeted this one out. Merry Christmas. It's that special time of year again where we celebrate the holidays with yet another Yuletide collection of prototypes. This time we have a couple of Sonic prototypes just for you, courtesy of Santa. And the last min continues. So taking a look at the Hidden Palace website, and there's 3 Shadow the Hedgehog prototypes that have been shared. May 17th, 2005, September 15th, and September 22nd, all from 2005. On top of that, there's even a lot more here, like a 2005 prototype for Sonic Riders, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity from 2007, and even more. Next up here, we're shifting from software to hardware. I'm talking about ASUS. Now, there was a rumor the other day that got a whole lot of people excited, myself included, about ASUS potentially getting into the RAM manufacturing business. I didn't report on this one because I didn't know if the rumor was true or false, and I wanted more information because it didn't really seem promising. However, unless ASUS is really downplaying this one, it seems that the rumor is false. It's being reported on Tom's Hardware that no, ASUS isn't going into memory manufacturing. Taiwanese tech giant issues statement smashing rumor. So here's the quote, and feel free to check out the article for more information. ASUS has no plans to invest in a memory wafer fab. I would be curious to see if they were looking at just branding existing RAM as ASUS, which really wouldn't help out in terms of pricing and RAM availability, but we'd have to wait and see on that. And continuing to talk about hardware, last up here we're talking about the upcoming Retroid Pocket 6. A lot of people are looking forward to this one, and Retroid has just teased some actual images of the hardware. For those unaware, the Retroid Pocket 6 is priced at $229 US. It features a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and between 8 and 12 gigs of RAM depending on the version you buy. Taking a look here, I do think this handheld looks absolutely gorgeous. It will be running Android. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.